Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Vignan, working as an SCCM administrator since 8 years. Today we are going to discuss about the SCCM client installation, prerequisites and troubleshooting. To recap, we have a number of methods available when installing the Configuration Manager client. Some of the methods are as follows: client push installation, manual installation, logon script installation, software update point based installation, group policy installation, and client upgrade installation. Keeping it simple, we have two installation files, that is CCMSETUP.EXE and client.msi. Effectively, CCMSETUP.EXE calls the client.msi during installation. And coming to the folders, we get three folders created under Windows directory, that is CCM, CCM cache, and CCM setup. CCM folder contains the client files and the logs which are helpful during troubleshooting client issues. CCM cache contains the software downloads which are pushed by the SCCM client, SCCM site server. And the last, the CCM setup. It contains the installation binaries and logs, whether the client is installed correctly or failed with an error code. Apart from the folders, we get registry keys installed, which are shown as below. Coming to the next slide, requirements for client installation. The service account which is used for the installation should have access on the admin $share folder on the client machine. And the WMS service should be in status state, and the service account should be configured properly on the client push installation methods. Coming to the first method, that is the client push installation. When you push the SCCM client, the SCCM site server generates a configuration request, that is the CCR file in the SCCM site server. The CCR file contains client computer name and additional information. The client configuration connects to the admin $share on the client using the service account which has been configured on the client push installation method. Here the configuration manager client connects to the client registry and gathers information about the client, which gets displayed in the CCM log. The client configuration manager verifies that the CCM setup service started successfully before disconnecting. The CCR file is added to the inbox under CCR retry box folder for verification that the installation has been succeeded. On the second verification pass, CCM determines that SMS agent host service is running and then only deletes the CCR file. If the SMS agent host service is not running and there is no proper installation within the system and a CCR file is renamed to the request ID of the target client computer and that file is placed in CCR retry.box folder. Client Configuration Manager checks for the files in this inbox folder every 60 minutes and tries to reprocess them 168 times 7 days before they are discarded. This all information is logged in the CCM log. Here is the log file, the CCM log file, where you can find the errors like access denied, invalid network path. Coming to the next slide, the CCR retry.box. You can see the request IDs are created to a .ccr file. So the system retries the process for 168 times, that is 7 days before it gets the CCR file deleted. Coming to the next slide, the client push installation advantages and disadvantages. Advantages. A client push installation method can be used to push to a single computer a collection or the results from a query. It can also be used to automatically install the client on discovered computers. Whereas the disadvantages, the client push installation method causes high network traffic when pushing to large collections, cannot be used to install clients in a workgroup clients. A client push installation account must be specified with administrative rights to the intended client computer, and also the Windows firewall must be configured on client computers with exceptions to allow the client push installation to complete. And the next slide is we discuss about the workgroup clients limitation. Workgroup clients cannot locate the management point from Active Directory domain services as they are not part of the domain. Instead, must use DNS or WINS. Active Directory discovery methods cannot discover computers in workgroup. You cannot use client push installation method for workgroup clients. Workgroup clients cannot use Kerberos for authentication, so requires a manual approval. Whenever a client gets installed, you need to search the host name in the SCCM console and do a manual approval for workgroup clients. A workgroup client cannot be configured as a distribution point. SCCM requires that distribution point computers be members of the domain. Site assignment. After the client is installed, it must join a configuration manager primary site before it can be managed. The site that client joins is referred to as its assigned site. Clients cannot be assigned to central site or a secondary site because there is no management point. A client is considered as unmanaged when it is installed but not assigned to a site, or it is assigned to a site but cannot communicate with the management point. So this helps us in part of troubleshooting when a client is in an active status or a client is not installed. So we see it further in the troubleshooting steps in the next few slides. Coming to the next slide, the manual versus auto assignment. Auto assignment will not work for workgroup clients. To manually assign the workgroup clients to a site, SMS site code property must be used. Use SCCM management point property to specify the management point, or use the DNS suffix for the clients to automatically locate management point from DNS. So below is the command which can be used during an installation, manual installation on a workgroup client. That is the CCMSETUP.EXE with the property SMS site code. Here it is ABC, and SCCM, that is ABC, and finally the DNS suffix can be used here. Site publishes the MP and site information by default to the DNS of its domain in DNS zone. Coming to the next slide, host files in the workgroup clients can be configured with the IP address and the site system host name as a default DNS entries. So here's the method and how we approve a client, a workgroup client. So for domain clients, manual client approval is not required as it gets approved automatically. But for our workgroup clients, we need to approve the client manually from Configuration Manager control. Change the approval method to approve all or manually approve each workgroup client. So you can see the below tab of the site settings properties where the client approval method is specified. We have three options, that is automatically approve the clients in trusted domains, manually approve each computer, and the last one is automatically approve all computers, not recommended. So we normally use the first option, automatically approve computers in trusted domains. So coming to the manual installation advantages and disadvantages. Advantages are, does not require computers to be discovered before the client can be installed, can be useful for testing purposes, supports using command line properties for CCM setup. Whereas the disadvantages are no automation, so hence this is time consuming. So manual uninstallation of the client. Uninstallation of the client is pretty straightforward. It's just a command that you need to run from the directory where the CCM setup is installed. So we need to go to Windows CCM folder where the CCMSETUP.EXE file is available. So from there, you need to run the uninstall switch. So this uninstalls the file completely from the SCCM client. So once it is uninstalled, we need a reboot. So coming to the SCCM client installation using script. So if the client is already installed, the first part of the command helps us to uninstall and remove the directories under the Windows directory folder. And the second part of the command helps us to install the client with the site code and the DNS suffix. Troubleshooting checklist. The most important part which helps us in finding why the client is not getting installed on the client machine. The first one is check the firewall is enabled or disabled. If enabled, allow the ports to talk to the SCCM site server. So in the next slide, I'll show what ports are required for the client to communicate with the SCCM site server and vice versa for policies and downloads, etc. Check the boundaries of the agent are specified in the site server or not. So the boundaries here could be an AD site on an IP range or an IP subnet. And next, it's the schema extension and ensure the attributes published in AD system management container. Check if there are no DNS issues in the client and that the client is able to resolve the SCCM site server, NetBIOS as well as the FQDN, the fully qualified domain name, without any issues. Coming to the next point, it is the client should be able to talk to the management point or not. So you need to run the below two links which lists, the first link which lists the management points and the second one gives some random numbers. So if these links are not working properly, then you need to check where's the problem. And the last one is if the WMI is working or not. You need to check whether it's working or not. If not, repair the WMI service by stopping the WMI service, renaming the repository folder, the WBEM, and starting the service back. So few exceptions on the Windows firewall for the client installation, client push installation. To get in order to get it successful, the first thing is the file and print sharing and the Windows management instrumentation both should be added to the exceptions to the firewall, Windows firewall. So here are the ports which are used during the configuration manager client deployment. The first one is the SMB, the server message block between the site server and the client computer, and it uses TCP 445 port number. And the most important which we want to see is the HTTP from the client computer to the management point that uses the port TCP 80 or 8530, and whereas the secure HTTPS protocol uses 443 or 8531 port. So coming to the troubleshooting part. So if I want to check a client which is whether it is healthy or not, from a client side, from a client machine side, I have list of logs which needs to be checked. The first one is the CCMSETUP.log file. This log files show all the client installation activities, whether it is installed properly or any issue available. Second one is the client ID manager startup log. Records the creation and maintenance of the client UIDs and also the registration status of the client computer. The most important of this is the client registration status is shown in this log file. The next one is the client log, the client location log. Records the site assignment tasks, can help us to troubleshoot scenarios where the client is not assigned to a configuration manager site. The next one is the location services.log. Records attempts to find the managing points and the distribution points. Can help us in troubleshooting the scenarios where the client cannot find the management or the distribution points. And the last one is the policy agent, shows the downloaded policies from the site server. So you can see the list of policies, whether they're downloaded properly or not. And coming to the server side, if I want to check whether the client is installed, whether the client is healthy or not, I can verify these logs. The CCM.log, the most important log which helps in showing various errors, whether the client installation is proper, and the client installation requests, you can see the client installation requests, and whether the site server is able to access the admin $share of the client. Simply you can see the errors like access denied and network path not found, and so forth and so on. And the next log file is MP_registration, tells whether the client is registered or not. And the other one is the DDR, MP_DDR, discovers the client after registration. So these are the important log files which you need to see in the SCCM site server. So the most important is the services which needs to be running on the client machine. So the first one is the automatic updates. The most important one is the BITS, background intelligence transfer service, remote registry, and the SCCM client service, that is the SMS agent host, terminal services, Windows installer, and the most important, as known, it is the WMI, Windows Management Instrumentation, which helps us in getting the software inventory and hardware inventory, all the details of the client. And this will be reported to the SCCM site server. And coming to the installation error codes, these are the list. Coming to the next slide, the installation error codes. The list is the error codes which you can find in the SCCM log files, especially the CCM.log file during installations. So these are all the listed different kinds of error codes which we have encountered during the installations of the SCCM clients. So one which we have noted here is the WMI repair. So if you found any error log in the .exemgr.log file while installing the SCCM client, try stopping the WMI service and rename the repository folder and start the WMI service, which helps us in installing the SCCM client. So this is the other error code, unable to locate. So to resolve this issue, enable the file and print sharing on the Windows client computers. So to do the below steps, just follow it. Coming to the default client settings in SCCM. The client settings decide how the SCCM client communicates with the SCCM site server and how the SCCM site server pushes the policies and updates to the client machine. Most importantly, any changes made to the client settings, policies will be applied to all the systems. We can create customized device and user policies and also set priorities to the policies. Most importantly, the uses of Configuration Manager client, which helps us in collecting the hardware and software inventory of the client systems, deploys applications and software updates, software metering the usage of applications, detects and remediates configuration settings, supports remote management where you can assist the user from the configuration management console, or try to check for the logs, applies power management policies, and the last one is protects the client against malware using endpoint protection. So coming to the last slide, it's the various operating systems which support the SCCM client installation are Vista, Windows 7, Windows 8, 8.1, Windows 10, Windows 2003, Windows 2008, 2012, R2, and the respective editions and service packs, as well as the platforms are shown here. Thank you for watching this video. Please do subscribe my YouTube channel.